On the remote mining colony of Epsilon Prime, life was harsh, and the stars seemed distant and cold. The colony stretched across jagged red plains, dotted with metallic structures that hummed with energy. Its human inhabitants were few, hardy and practical, living day to day, mining the rare minerals that kept humanity's fleets and industries running. Amid these workers and scientists lived Kale Varin, a man of quiet nature, small in stature but large in curiosity. Kale was not ambitious, nor did he desire wealth or recognition. He spent most of his days examining mineral samples, tinkering with machinery, or gazing at the sky from the colony's observation deck. He loved patterns, logic, and understanding the natural world. The universe fascinated him, but he had no illusions about its grandeur compared to human life. For Kale, life was about balance, knowing one's limits, understanding one's role, and living with honesty. One evening, as the twin moons of Epsilon Prime rose above the horizon, Kale noticed a strange light shimmering over the mountains beyond the mining fields. At first he thought it was a reflection of the colony's lights on the mineral-rich cliffs. But as he stared, he realized the light moved independently, pulsing in colors he had never seen before, violets deeper than the void, greens brighter than emeralds, blues calmer than the ocean. Curiosity overcame caution. Kale grabbed his field jacket and walked toward the source, leaving the colony behind. The light led him to a flat plateau where the air shimmered like heat above a desert. There, standing without stepping, floated a being whose form seemed impossible. Its body was humanoid in outline, but its surface reflected the stars, and light swirled inside it as if a galaxy was trapped in its chest. Kale's first instinct was fear, but the being radiated calm. Its voice entered his mind without sound. "Kale Varin, you have been watched. We offer you gifts beyond human imagination, beauty beyond measure, and power to shape worlds. Take what you wish." Kyle stepped back, blinking. His mind raced. Beauty and power, gifts beyond comprehension, yet he felt no desire. He thought of the colony, of the miners and scientists who struggled every day, of children who played under red skies, and of the simple joys of his own life. None of it needed magic or influence. I don't want them, Kyle said aloud, though his voice trembled. I don't want beauty and I don't want power. I want to live my life as I have. The alien paused, a light swirling slowly around its head. You are different, it said. Most would leap at this offer without question. Why do you refuse? Kyle shrugged, feeling the chill of the wind on the plateau. Because they are not mine to take. I do not need them. I only need to do right by myself and those around me. The alien's glow seemed to pulse faster, as if amused or intrigued. Such humility is rare among your kind. Know this, Kale Varin. Refusing is also a choice, and it carries consequences. Kale frowned, unsure what consequences could come from saying no. But before he could ask, the alien's form stretched and blurred, then vanished, leaving only the cold, silent plateau. He returned to the colony before dawn, careful not to speak of what he had seen. He didn't know how to describe it, and he feared no one would believe him. Yet a strange warmth lingered inside him, like a spark of energy that hummed beneath his ribs. The next day, life in the colony seemed the same. Miners dug through red rock, engineers calibrated machinery, and children played under the dull sun. But Kale noticed subtle changes. Machines he had repaired yesterday performed better than expected, even though nothing had been altered. Plants in the small hydroponic gardens seemed greener, stronger. A faint but persistent sense of calm surrounded him wherever he went. Word of strange phenomena spread quickly. At first, the colony scientists dismissed it as coincidence, but as days passed, patterns emerged. Kale's presence seemed to improve efficiency, reduce mistakes, and bring people together. He had not asked for this, yet it happened around him, quietly, without fanfare. Some colonists began to whisper. He must have taken the alien's gifts in secret, they said. Others simply shrugged and continued their work. But Kale himself felt no change. He still looked the same, slept the same, and ate the same. The only difference was the strange energy he sensed in the air, and the subtle shift in human behavior around him. Then came the visitors. A small ship, unlike any human design, glided silently into the colony's landing bay. Its surface reflected the stars, shifting colors like the being Kale had seen. From it emerged two emissaries, identical in appearance to the first, with bodies shimmering like trapped galaxies. They addressed Kale directly, though hundreds of others were present. "Kale Varin, your refusal has been noted. You could have taken what most would die to obtain, yet you chose restraint. Few humans have this strength. Few would refuse beauty and power." Kale felt neither pride nor fear. "I have no need for them," he said simply. The alien's forms swirled, and what Kale imagined was amusement. "Then you understand the weight of choice. What you have refused has consequences far beyond your comprehension. Others will seek these gifts, and they will not show mercy. Your life and the lives of those around you may change because of your decision." Kale looked out at the red mountains, thinking of the miners and children, the engineers, the scientists who slept under thin blankets in cold dormitories. He thought of the tiny joys that filled human life, moments of laughter, acts of kindness, quiet moments beneath alien skies. He did not fear change. If anything, he felt a quiet determination to face whatever came without succumbing to greed or vanity. "Then let them come," he said, his voice steady. "I will not take what is not mine. And if they seek it, then they will see that humans can stand on their own, without gifts, without tricks." The emissaries paused, then slowly drifted upward, disappearing into the darkening sky. Their presence had left a mark not on Kale's body but on his very being. Something had shifted inside him, a quiet energy that thrummed like the pulse of a distant star, subtle yet undeniable. Days passed, and life on Epsilon Prime returned to routine. But Kale noticed more phenomena. Machinery continued to operate with uncanny efficiency in his presence. The miners, once irritable and tense, found themselves cooperating. Children played together without quarrels, and even the colony leaders, who were often impatient and competitive, treated him with unexpected respect. He realized something extraordinary. By refusing what was offered, he had activated something deeper, a resonance between human will and something beyond human understanding. He did not know if it was the aliens' doing or a latent human potential awakening, but the result was clear. Human effort, untainted by greed or vanity, had power enough to change small worlds. Late one night, Kyle stood again on the observation deck, gazing at the twin moons rising over jagged horizons. He felt the weight of the choice he had made, but it was not a burden. It was a quiet promise, to live honestly, to help others without expectation, and to prove that humanity could grow stronger not through shortcuts, but through integrity and wisdom. The universe was vast, and the emissaries had only hinted at its mysteries. Kale knew his refusal was only the beginning. Others would come seeking gifts, beauty, or power, and when they did, humanity would face a choice: succumb to temptation or rise above it. Kale smiled faintly, feeling a strange warmth in his chest. He had asked for nothing, yet he felt richer than those who coveted everything. In the quiet of the colony, under twin moons and endless stars, a simple truth became clear. Sometimes refusing the easy path is the first step to greatness, and so Kale Varin returned to his life of quiet curiosity, unaware that his choice had already begun to ripple across the galaxy. The offer had been made, and he had refused. But the story of that refusal, the story of a human standing firm, choosing humility over desire, was only beginning. The days after the alien encounter passed quietly, but for Kale Varin, nothing was truly the same. Though the colony of Epsilon Prime seemed normal at first glance, miners working, engineers calibrating equipment, and children playing under the red sky, Kale could sense subtle shifts around him. Machines he touched seemed more responsive. A drilling rig that usually required 3 people to operate ran smoothly under his supervision with only 2. Sensors calibrated faster, and mining efficiency improved without explanation. At first he thought it was coincidence, but the patterns grew undeniable. Even the people around him behaved differently. A quarrel between 2 miners that would normally have ended in shouting and bruised egos resolved itself without intervention. When Kale offered a simple suggestion on machinery alignment, the engineers implemented it with a diligence and precision he had rarely seen. It was not power he had claimed, nor beauty nor influence, but somehow, his presence alone inspired balance. He could not explain it. Perhaps it was the alien gift he had refused, or perhaps humanity itself carried a potential that flourished when untainted by greed. Word spread quietly. A young scientist named Mira Seller observed the anomalies and approached Kale one evening, her eyes bright with curiosity. "Kale," she said, "I've been watching. Every time you handle machinery, it seems better. Every time you speak, people listen, not because they fear you, but because they want to. Do you know why?" Kyle shook his head. "I don't. I didn't ask for anything. I only did what I thought was right." Mira frowned, puzzled. "But right is making a difference without trying to. It's like you're changing things just by being yourself." Kyle smiled faintly. "Maybe that's all any of us can do. Be ourselves and act wisely." Still, Kale could not ignore a sense of unease. The emissaries had warned him that refusing the gifts would have consequences. He had no idea what those consequences might be, but he knew instinctively that they were approaching. It did not take long for the first signs to appear. One morning, a message arrived through the colony's comlink. It was from Vera Systems, a powerful human organization that controlled many colonies across several star systems. The message was simple. "We have heard of your refusal. We request a meeting. Cooperation may be mutually beneficial." Kale frowned. Cooperation. The message sounded polite, but he sensed underlying intent. Those who sought gifts like beauty or power rarely approached without expectation. He knew that Vera Systems had ambitions far larger than Epsilon Prime. Their ships, their resources, and their influence made them a force few could challenge. He decided to meet them, not out of fear, but to understand their motives. In the conference hall of the Vera ship, Kyle met Director Lauren, a tall, stern man whose presence seemed designed to command attention. Lauren spoke first. "Kale Varin," he said, "your refusal of the alien offer has caused quite a stir. Across human space, we are beginning to see reports of anomalies, machines performing better, people working more efficiently, small communities thriving. We believe you are the cause." Kale remained calm. "I am not seeking influence. I am simply living as I have always lived. Perhaps people are responding to honesty, or effort, or kindness. That is all." Lauren's eyes narrowed. "You must understand. We have seen what these gifts can do. We could offer you guidance, training, even resources beyond your imagination. Humanity would advance faster under your leadership. You could shape worlds. All you need to do is accept what is offered, or at least cooperate with us." Kyle shook his head. "I have said no once. I will not change that. I will not use what is not mine, nor will I manipulate others for personal gain." The director's expression hardened. "Then you leave us little choice. If your presence inspires others without control, we must observe closely. You may attract those who would seek to take what is offered, by force if necessary." Kyle left the meeting with a quiet unease. He realized the emissaries had been right. Consequences were coming. But he also understood that he could not live in fear. He returned to the colony, strengthened by his resolve. Over the next weeks, Kale noticed a new development. Travelers from nearby systems began visiting Epsilon Prime, curious about the colony where things seemed to function unusually well. Some came seeking knowledge, inspired by the stories of efficiency and cooperation. Others came with suspicion, wondering if Kale had secretly acquired the alien gifts. Yet Kale treated all visitors the same way, with honesty, patience, and curiosity. He shared what he knew, listened to what others had discovered, and never claimed credit for the changes around him. Slowly, people began to understand the principle that Kale lived by, that human effort, guided by integrity, could achieve wonders without magic or shortcuts. One evening, Kale stood on the observation deck, gazing at the twin moons rising over the horizon. Mira joined him, her notebook clutched in her hands. "You've changed things here," she said softly. "Not just the machines, but the people. There's hope, something we haven't felt in a long time. Do you feel it too?" Kale nodded. "I feel it. But it is not because of me. It is because people respond to what is right. All I do is follow that path and others see it. That is all." Mira hesitated, then asked, "Do you think the aliens will return?" Kale considered this. "Perhaps. But I cannot worry about them. I can only live rightly and face whatever comes with courage and honesty." The next day, the first direct challenge appeared. A group of mercenaries hired by unknown powers arrived on Epsilon Prime. They were not here to talk or negotiate. They were here to claim what they believed Kale possessed. Weapons and drones surrounded the colony, demanding access to Kale himself. Kale walked calmly toward the intruders, unarmed and unafraid. "I have nothing for you," he said. "No gifts, no wealth, no power. You may try to take it by force, but you will find there is nothing here for you." The mercenaries laughed, their confidence high. Yet as Kale moved among them, something extraordinary occurred. Confusion spread through the ranks. Guns jammed. Drones faltered. Soldiers found themselves unable to cooperate efficiently, as if their own desire for control disrupted them. Kale did not touch a weapon, did not cast a spell, and did not call upon alien power. He simply stood firm, calm, and resolute. And yet the outcome was clear. The intruders could not succeed. By the end of the confrontation, the mercenaries retreated, bewildered and defeated not by force, but by Kale's presence and his unwavering commitment to integrity. The colony, for its part, celebrated quietly. No one needed to claim victory because the truth was evident. Humanity, guided by reason and honesty, could stand strong even against threats far greater than itself. Kale understood then what the aliens had meant. Refusing the gifts did not remove him from influence. It transformed him in ways subtle yet profound. His choice had consequences, yes, but they were not the consequences of loss. They were the consequences of responsibility. To live rightly in a universe full of temptation and danger was a rare power in itself. Mira watched him from the observation deck as the twin moons cast silver light across the red plains. "You're different, Kale," she said softly. "Not because of what you refused, but because of how you live." Kyle smiled faintly, gazing at the horizon. "Perhaps, but different does not mean better. Only honest. And perhaps that is enough for now." The stars above seemed to shimmer as if acknowledging his words. EpicSciFi, small and remote, had become a beacon, not of alien gifts but of human potential. And Kale, though unaware of the full scope, had already begun to change the galaxy in quiet, unseen ways. Yet the universe is vast, and whispers of his actions would not remain contained. Across distant systems, others began to notice anomalies, and not all observers were kind. Kale knew more challenges would come, but he also knew that the path of integrity, though narrow and difficult, was one worth walking. In that quiet evening light, Kale made a silent vow. Whatever trials came, whatever gifts others sought, he would stand firm. For the first time, he understood that refusing beauty and power had not made him weak. It had revealed a strength deeper than any gift could provide. And somewhere in the darkness beyond the stars, the alien emissaries watched, their curiosity growing. They had offered Kale what most would crave, and he had refused. The consequences were unfolding, but they had yet to see the full measure of human potential. The calm of EpicSciFi did not last long. Kale Varin had grown accustomed to subtle changes, the machines that ran smoother, the miners working together, the colony thriving, but a new presence in the stars began to disturb that quiet balance. One morning, an alien ship descended into the colony's landing bay. Unlike the first emissary, this vessel was larger, more imposing, yet its surface shimmered like liquid light. From it emerged two beings identical to the one Kale had first met, their forms shifting and luminous. "Kale Varin," one said, its voice calm yet resonant. "You have shown restraint and integrity. You refused beauty and power. You have inspired others through simple honesty. But now you face the true challenge." Kyle studied them carefully. "Challenge?" he asked. "I've lived honestly and done what I could for others. What challenge remains?" The alien's light swirled in patterns Kale could barely comprehend. "A test, not of strength, not of cunning. A test of character. You will face simulations of countless versions of yourself, choices you might have made, paths you might have taken. You must navigate them wisely, showing that human potential is greater than gifts alone." Kale frowned. He had expected trials of skill, perhaps intelligence, but not this, an internal test. Yet he felt no fear. He had learned to face what came with calm, and he would face this the same way. The alien's forms shimmered. Then he was no longer on the plateau. He stood in a vast hall of mirrors, infinite reflections stretching in every direction. In each reflection, Kale saw himself, not as he was, but as he could have been. One version wore the robes of a galactic emperor, a crown on his head, ruling vast systems with authority. Another version wandered as a hermit, alone on a barren world, having rejected all responsibility. Yet another appeared as a hero celebrated across the stars, admired and worshipped by billions. A voice echoed from every direction, yet Kale recognized it as the aliens. You will live through these paths, Kale Varen. Act wisely. Show that your choices are not dictated by gifts or temptation, but by integrity, wisdom, and compassion. The first reflection stepped forward, transforming into a version of Kale with sharp features and a cold gaze. This Kale ruled with absolute power, manipulating worlds for efficiency and gain. He commanded fleets and armies, and the people obeyed without question. The simulation began. Kale was thrust into a galactic council, forced to decide whether to take advantage of a weaker planet for resources. His reflection urged him to exploit it, promising wealth and glory. The halls were filled with whispers. Take it. Rule with strength. No one will question you. Kale felt the temptation, but he did not act. Instead, he sought compromise, using diplomacy to help the planet maintain its autonomy while sharing resources fairly. The reflection sneered. Weakness. Humanity is strong only through control. Kale shook his head. Strength is not only taking but giving. It is protecting, not exploiting. The scene dissolved, replaced by another reflection, one where Kale had ignored responsibility, living alone on a barren planet. Hunger and loneliness pressed on him. The simulation forced him to make choices, survive at the expense of others or share limited resources. He chose sharing, helping alien creatures and humans alike, finding that even small acts of kindness could multiply into larger benefits. Another reflection challenged him with glory and admiration. This Kale had become a hero adored by billions, but pride had hardened his heart. The simulation offered him godlike powers, a chance to reshape entire civilizations. Yet he saw the suffering that came from arrogance and refused to use it to dominate or impose. He acted with care, empowering others rather than controlling them. Hours or perhaps days passed. Time was meaningless in the Hall of Mirrors. Every reflection became a challenge: greed, vanity, fear, pride, ambition. Each version of Kale tempted him in subtle ways, showing what humanity could become if it succumbed to desire for gifts or recognition. And Kale passed them all, not by brute force, not by brilliance alone, but through consistency, honesty, and compassion. He realized something profound. Humanity's greatest power was choice. Even when offered shortcuts, even when the universe tempted them with glory, the strength to act rightly defined true greatness. Finally, the reflections merged into one. The Hall of Mirrors faded and Kale stood again on Epsilon Prime, the red plain stretching under the twin moons. The alien emissaries observed him, their forms calm and luminous. You have succeeded, one said, not by taking what was offered, but by proving that human character can shape worlds, inspire civilizations, and resist temptation. Few in the galaxy possess this quality. You have shown it naturally. Kale nodded, though he did not feel pride. He had only acted as he always did, honestly, carefully, with attention to others. Yet the alien's approval was not meaningless. It confirmed what he had suspected. The potential for greatness lies within every human, waiting for choices guided by integrity. One emissary extended a shimmering hand. We could offer you the gifts again, Kale Varen. Beauty, power, dominion. You may take them freely, without consequence, but you may also continue as you are. The choice is yours. Kyle paused, gazing at the light. He felt no desire for beauty, no longing for control, no curiosity for dominance. What he sought was simple: understanding, balance, and the ability to live rightly. I ask for nothing, he said firmly. I have everything I need in my life and my choices. The emissaries swirled in light, their forms rippling like water. Few can refuse so completely. Know this, Kale Varen. Your refusal is not the end, but a beginning. What you build will inspire others. What you teach by example will spread beyond your understanding. Yet challenges remain. Others will seek what you do not desire. Your character will be tested again. Kale understood. The universe was not a quiet place. Gifts and power tempted many, and those who could resist and act rightly would be rare. He returned to the colony, his mind calm, though his heart carried the weight of responsibility. Over the following weeks, Kale noticed subtle changes in the people around him. Colonists began solving disputes without anger, cooperating with engineers and miners, teaching children not by force but by example. Visitors from other colonies came, not seeking the alien gifts, but seeking guidance in building communities where honesty and effort mattered more than shortcuts or domination. Even Mira, who had watched Kyle closely, was astonished. "Kale," she said one evening, "I don't understand how you do it. People listen, machines work better, and the colony thrives. You haven't claimed any gifts, yet everything changes." Kale smiled faintly. "Perhaps there are gifts beyond what the aliens offered. Gifts of character, of choice, of patience. That is enough for me." But not all noticed his quiet strength. Across the galaxy, whispers of his actions began to reach those who coveted power. Corporations, factions, and individuals who sought shortcuts or magical influence began plotting. Seeing Kale's presence as a threat to their ambitions, the aliens had warned him. Consequences followed refusal, but Kale no longer feared them. He knew that power came not from domination, but from integrity and wisdom. He would face whatever challenges arose with patience and honesty. One night, standing beneath the twin moons, Kale felt the vastness of the universe pressing on him. Yet instead of fear or doubt, he felt purpose. He understood now that refusing gifts, facing trials, and living rightly was not weakness. It was the first step toward showing humanity's true potential. The aliens had tested him, but the greater test was not complete. He would face others, those who desired what he did not and those who sought to impose their will on humanity. And when that time came, Kale Vereen would stand firm, embodying the truth that greatness does not come from gifts, but from choice. For now, the colony slept peacefully. The machines hummed efficiently. The miners rested after a long day. Children dreamed beneath the twin moons. And Kyle, though weary from trials beyond comprehension, felt a quiet hope. The knowledge that human potential, when guided by integrity, could rise above the universe's temptations. Weeks had passed since Kale Vereen had faced the Hall of Mirrors and completed the alien trial. Life on Epsilon Prime continued its quiet rhythm, but the colony had changed. The subtle improvements in machinery, human cooperation, and morale were no longer isolated anomalies. They had become part of daily life. Kyle walked among the miners and engineers with the same calm and humility he always had, yet every action he took seemed to ripple outward, inspiring others to do better. Kyle's presence became a quiet catalyst. In the mining fields, teams that had once argued over tasks now coordinated without instruction, anticipating each other's moves. Engineers shared ideas freely, building machines that were faster, more efficient, and more reliable. Even children in the colony began helping each other and the adults, learning cooperation and problem-solving naturally. It was not magic, and it was not alien influence in the way most imagined. Kale realized that the potential for greatness had always existed in humans. The alien trial had only revealed it. By refusing gifts of power and beauty, Kale demonstrated that humans could grow, improve, and inspire without shortcuts. One morning, Mira approached Kale in the observation dome. Her tablet was filled with notes, charts, and logs of patterns she had noticed in the colony's behavior. "Kale," she said, "I've been studying this for weeks. Machines work better around you. People respond differently. The colony thrives. I don't understand why. But it's not just chance, it's something more. You've changed everything without asking for anything. How is this possible?" Kyle smiled faintly. "I don't know exactly. I only do what feels right. People respond when they see honesty, consistency, and effort. I've learned that what you do matters more than what you take. That is all." Mira nodded thoughtfully. "It's incredible. You've made Epsilon Prime a model for humanity without realizing it." Kale looked out at the twin moons rising above the horizon. "Perhaps. But the galaxy is vast and many will not see it the same way. What matters is the small choices we make every day." Even as Kale observed these changes, the universe began testing him in new ways. Word of the colony's prosperity reached other systems, including factions that valued control over collaboration. Delegations arrived with questions, advice, or subtle threats, seeking to understand how a small colony could achieve such efficiency and harmony. Kale welcomed all visitors, treating them with patience and respect. He shared knowledge freely, encouraged cooperation, and refused to manipulate anyone for personal gain. His actions inspired those who came to him. Scientists took new approaches to problem-solving. Engineers implemented systems that favored teamwork, and leaders began to understand the importance of integrity over shortcuts. One evening, An alien emissary returned, this time accompanied by a second figure. Both hovered above the observation deck, their bodies shimmering with the familiar galaxy-like patterns. "Kyle Varine," one said, "you have passed the trial, and your presence continues to influence humanity. But we wish to see how far your example will reach. We offer no gifts this time, only guidance. Observe, inspire, and grow. You may shape human potential without taking what is offered." Kale nodded. "I understand. I will continue as I have, honestly, patiently, and with care for others." The emissary swirled in light, then left. Kale felt no loss or regret. He knew that the true gift was not beauty or power, but the ability to show humanity its own potential. Over the following months, Epsilon Prime became a center for quiet innovation. Colonists collaborated to design new tools for mining, life support, and communication. Local children learned not only math and science, but also empathy, problem-solving, and teamwork. Kale did not instruct them directly, he simply lived as he always had. Yet his example spread like sunlight through the colony. Visitors from distant colonies began replicating these methods, sharing knowledge and cooperation instead of hoarding secrets. Kale watched quietly as human civilization began to shift in subtle but profound ways. One by one, colonies that had struggled with greed, competition, or inefficiency discovered that integrity and collaboration created better results than shortcuts or domination. Even the factions that had once sought the alien gifts grew curious. Some sent envoys to observe Kale, skeptical at first, but slowly learning that his influence came not from power, but from example. The more they observed, the more they realized that humanity's potential was greater than any gift the aliens could provide. Yet not all challenges were so subtle. One morning, the colony received an urgent message from the nearby system of Rillan Prime. A fleet of mercenaries backed by wealthy industrialists was approaching. They sought to claim the colony's resources, believing Kale held alien gifts. Kale gathered the colonists in the main hall. "We will not fight with anger or greed," he said calmly. "We will stand together, cooperate, and defend what is ours with intelligence and patience. There is no gift here to steal, only human effort and integrity. That is enough." When the mercenaries arrived, Kale did not face them with weapons. He walked among them, calm and unwavering. Strange things began to happen again. Machines in their ships misaligned, communication systems faltered, and even their strategy became confused. It was as if the mercenaries' own desire for power disrupted them, while Kale's presence strengthened cooperation and clarity among his people. By the end of the confrontation, the mercenaries retreated, bewildered and defeated not by violence, but by the quiet strength of unity, honesty, and courage. Epsilon Prime had once again survived, not through power or domination, but through integrity and cooperation. Kale understood the lesson clearly. True influence does not come from gifts or weapons, but from the way humans act together, guided by wisdom and morality. He realized that this quiet strength could ripple across the galaxy, far beyond the limits of any single colony. That evening, Kale stood on the observation deck, Mira beside him. The twin moons cast silver light across the red plains and the colony slept peacefully. "You've changed everything," Mira said softly. "Machines, people, even the visitors. How do you do it?" Kyle smiled faintly. "I do nothing extraordinary. I live as I always have. I make choices guided by what is right and others see it. That is all." Mira shook her head, impressed but still bewildered. "The galaxy will notice soon. What you've done is more than anyone imagined," Kale nodded. "Perhaps, but the work is not done. Others will face temptation. Others will seek shortcuts. All we can do is continue honestly and patiently, showing by example that integrity has value beyond any gift." The alien emissaries had once offered him beauty and power. Kale had refused. And yet, by refusing, he had discovered something far greater, the ability to inspire humanity, to show that greatness was not in gifts or shortcuts, but in integrity, wisdom, and courage. The night was quiet, but Kale felt the vastness of the universe pressing in around him. Stars twinkled in the distance, planets rotated silently in the void, and the twin moons shone over the red plains of Epsilon Prime. Somewhere, far beyond human perception, the aliens watched, noting the slow but undeniable change in humanity. Kyle understood that his journey was far from over. The galaxy would test humans, offering temptations, challenges, and promises of power. But he had learned the truth. Resisting temptation, acting with integrity, and inspiring others through example was the strongest gift of all. And so, Kyle Varan continued to walk among his people, quietly shaping the future without claiming glory, without wielding power, and without seeking beauty. The universe had offered him everything, and he had refused. Yet in doing so, he had begun to transform humanity itself. The colony thrived. Visitors came to learn rather than to exploit, and whispers of Kale's influence spread quietly across the stars. One day, perhaps humanity would face challenges beyond imagination. But when that day came, they would remember the lesson of Epsilon Prime. Greatness is born not from gifts, but from choice. And Kale, standing beneath twin moons and endless stars, smiled. For he had asked for nothing, and yet humanity had gained everything. Years passed on Epsilon Prime, and the colony thrived more than anyone could have imagined. Machines ran smoothly, communities worked together in harmony, and children learned not only knowledge but empathy, problem-solving, and cooperation. Kale Varan had grown older, his hair touched with silver, but his calm demeanor and steady presence remained unchanged. He had become a quiet legend among the colonists, not for wealth or conquest, but for example. People began to call him the guiding hand, though Kale never claimed the title. He continued his daily life, walking among the miners, inspecting machinery, sharing meals with the workers, and gazing at the twin moons from the observation deck. Visitors came from far-off systems, drawn by the stories of a colony that had achieved harmony without coercion, without shortcuts, and without gifts of power. Scientists and leaders observed quietly, recording every method, every principle, every moment of cooperation. Slowly, Epsilon Prime became a model for the galaxy, not because of alien gifts, but because of human effort inspired by Kale's example. One morning, Mira Silar approached Kale with a report she had compiled. "Kale," she said, "I've been reviewing the data from the past decade. Colonies that adopted your methods have increased efficiency, reduced conflict, and improved cooperation across multiple star systems. People are learning to work together naturally without fear or manipulation. Your presence, your example, has sparked a quiet revolution." Kyle smiled faintly. "It is not my presence alone, Mira. The work comes from them, the miners, the scientists, the children. They make the choices every day. I only walk among them." Mira shook her head. "Still, you are the reason they see those choices as possible. Without you, none of this would have spread so far so quickly." Kale's eyes drifted toward the horizon. "Perhaps. But the galaxy is vast. Many will resist these lessons. Many will seek power or shortcuts. Our task is not to control them, but to show what is possible when humans act rightly." And yet not all observers were benign. Reports reached Epsilon Prime of factions and leaders who still coveted the alien gifts, seeing them as the ultimate path to domination. Some sent emissaries to test Kale, to challenge his influence, or to steal knowledge. But time and again, Kale faced them with calm honesty, patience and cooperation, and time and again, his example inspired change rather than conflict. One day, the emissaries returned, those same beings who had first offered him gifts. They hovered above the colony's observation deck, radiant as always. "Kyle Varan," one said, "you have walked the path of choice, humility, and integrity. You refused what most would desire, and yet your influence has spread farther than gifts could ever reach. Tell us, do you wish for anything now?" Kale considered them carefully. "No, I have everything I need in my life and my choices. The true gifts are not yours to offer. They are within humanity itself." The emissary's light pulsed slowly like stars breathing. "Few among all civilizations would answer so. You have shown that human potential is not defined by external power, but by the choices one makes. You have created a legacy not of wealth, glory, or beauty, but of wisdom, integrity, and hope." Kale nodded. "Then my work continues. Not for fame, not for reward, but because it is right." Over time, Kale's influence began to ripple further. Colonies across multiple star systems began to adopt his methods. Cooperation replaced competition, education emphasized morality as well as skill, and leaders who once sought power for selfish ends began to reconsider their approaches. Humanity was slowly changing, not because of alien gifts, but because one man had refused them, showing that greatness came from within, Even the children of Epsilon Prime, now grown, became teachers, engineers, and leaders in other systems. They carried Kale's lessons with them, spreading the principles of honesty, integrity, and cooperation wherever they went. Every decision they made reflected the quiet power of example rather than domination. One day Kyle stood on the observation deck, gazing at the twin moons and the endless stars beyond. Mira joined him, now an experienced leader and teacher. "Kyle," she said softly, "you've changed humanity. We've seen colonies transform, people inspired to act rightly, and entire systems influenced. The galaxy is different because of your choices." Kale smiled, though a quiet melancholy touched him. "It is not my doing alone. Humanity had the potential all along. I only showed what is possible when gifts are refused and choices are guided by integrity." Mira nodded. "Still, you are the spark." Kale turned to her. "Then let it be a spark. Let it grow in them, not in me. That is all I ask." Years continued to pass, and Kale grew older, though his mind remained sharp and his heart steadfast. He witnessed colonies adopting his methods across the galaxy, some inspired by reports of Epsilon Prime, others by direct observation. Leaders began to value integrity and cooperation over domination and greed. Scientists learned to share discoveries rather than hoard them. Children learned kindness, teamwork, and responsibility. Even factions that had once sought the alien gifts came to understand something vital. Power without wisdom and morality is unstable. Observation of Kale's example taught them that true influence comes not from control, but from inspiring others to do what is right. In the quiet moments of the night, Kale sometimes reflected on the alien's original offer. Beauty and power had seemed tempting to others, but he had asked for neither. Yet he had received something far greater: the ability to influence humanity without force, to inspire growth, and to leave a legacy that would endure long after he was gone. On the day Kale finally retired from active work in the colony, the community gathered under the twin moons. Children he had taught now stood beside engineers and scientists, leaders and miners alike, celebrating the life of a man who had asked for nothing, yet given everything. Mira stepped forward, addressing the crowd. "Kale Vereen taught us that true greatness is not in wealth, power, or beauty, but in the choices we make every day. He showed us that humans can rise above temptation, act with integrity, and inspire one another without shortcuts or gifts. His legacy is not in what he took, but in what he gave: hope, wisdom, and the courage to act rightly." The crowd applauded, but Kale said nothing. He only looked up at the twin moons, feeling the quiet satisfaction of a life well lived. That night, as the colony slept, Kyle wandered to the observation deck alone. The stars stretched endlessly, distant suns twinkling like diamonds. Somewhere far away, the alien emissaries watched, smiling silently. They had offered beauty and power to a human, and he had refused. Yet through refusal, he had achieved something no gift could provide. He had shown humanity the strength of its own choices. Kale whispered to the stars, though no one could hear him. "It is not gifts that make humans strong. It is integrity, courage, and the quiet wisdom to act rightly. That is enough." And across the galaxy, the effects of his choices continued to grow. Colonies learned cooperation. Children became leaders. Scientists shared knowledge. And humanity slowly, steadily began to rise, guided not by alien gifts, but by the example of one man who asked for nothing. Kale's life ended quietly many years later, as all lives do. There were no grand monuments, no golden statues, no songs sung of his victories. Yet his legacy endured in the hearts and actions of those he had touched. Humanity, inspired by his choices, began to realize the potential that had always existed within it. The potential to act rightly, to resist temptation, to cooperate, to create, and to rise above weakness. The galaxy, vast and full of wonders, had witnessed something extraordinary, not because of beauty or power, but because one human had refused them, teaching others that greatness is not given, it is chosen. And in that quiet truth, Kale Varen's story became eternal.